Holy shit, how smooth was that, people? This is the Word on the Street, coming to you live from Austin, Texas. This is Ramses, your host. Actually, I'm also dual broadcasting from the streets of Los Santos, because I got GTA 5 running in the background. If you hear any background noises, honking horns, police sirens, screaming prostitutes, it's because of that. Just adding a little ambiance to the show tonight. Thank you for joining us on the Word on the Street podcast, bringing you the latest UFC rumors and news, predictions, complete speculation and shit talk. But just want to make it clear, this is not about bashing the UFC at all. In fact, that's almost not even allowed here. We're all here to promote the sport, enjoy it, talk about it, but let's get ridiculous about it or be real. Producing the show tonight, a friend of mine. He's a good guy. He's one of the best Jews in the MMA business. He is Ross Finkelstein. Follow him on Twitter at Ross Finkelstein. Check him out. He's a smart man. He's a good guy. He's helping me out tonight, setting this all up. Ross, how you doing? What do you hear? What do you say?
What do I hear? What do I say? I say lots of things, and I hear lots of things. Ladies and gentlemen, the Jew is back. It is the Word on the Street podcast. I am your Word on the Street podcast champion. I rule over everyone. That's right, champion. You can find me on Twitter, like he said, at Ross Finkelstein, E before the L.
That's right, people. Check him out, Ross Finkelstein. Thank you so much for putting this together tonight, by the way, Ross. I really mean that. Also, he is the trivia champion here on the Word on the Street podcast. He's held the belt more times than anyone else. His constant nemesis, title contender, Jake from the MMA podcast. We're not sure what happened to him. He is not on. He is, he's not willing to challenge for the belt anymore. Maybe he's lost the heart for it. I don't know. There's also a chance that he's dead. We haven't heard from him. We tried to reach out to him, get him on the show. I don't mean to raise the back of the hair in your neck or whatever the fuck it is. I don't want to spook anybody out there. But me and Ross were talking about it. We give it 50-50. He's dead.
What?
I know it's ridiculous, but also, well, instead of Jake, we have on one of the regulars. He's a good guy, extreme MMA fight fan. He's training to fight one of our other regulars, Yao the Truth, here coming up. This guy, though, he is none other than Officer Allen. Allen, welcome to the Word on the Street. What do you hear? What do you say? I don't know. What do you think, man? What's going on?
I can hear the sirens in the background, the fear and the smell of the streets.
That's right.
It's good to be back. Long time I've been absent, so I'm here to bring back some flavor from the South.
Yep, it has been hard times, man. I was also absent for a couple of days. You might have noticed, if you follow me on Twitter, The Ant Jimmy Show on Twitter, The Ant Jimmy Show on Twitter. That is the Word on the Street. I had to get away, actually, this fucking weekend. Had to go to New Orleans for my brother's bachelor party. He's getting married. He's getting married on the day of UFC 166 in Houston, Texas. So I was planning on going to that. I had tickets to the fucking UFC fight. Kane versus JDS. The trilogy fight. Unfortunately, my brother is going through with the wedding. I did my damnedest. I did everything I could to stop this marriage from happening. But I failed. It's going down. Love prevailed. So I can't make it to this fucking fight. And this weekend I went to the damn bachelor party in New Orleans, Louisiana, and if you've never been there, I'm telling you right now, no offense, I know Alan is from Louisiana, but I would not recommend New Orleans to anybody. Alright? In my opinion, I mean, if we could do it without, people getting killed, Katrina should have wiped that city off the face of the map, in my opinion. Just made it, just a new coastline. Should have just buried it, man. That city is ridiculous. The bachelor party consisted of 12 people, 12 guys. 2 of us got robbed. That's 1 out of 6. 2 of us. Yes, they fell for the oldest trick in the book. They got lured away at a titty bar by some bitches. They got in the car and they thought they were gonna have a threesome because that happens randomly, and they got robbed for everything. But that wasn't it, man. Whatever. You're drunk. You're on the streets. You get robbed. It happens. It's kind of fucked up or whatever. You let it go, man. You let it go. And just to tell you, Ross and Alan, take it off me or it don't matter, man. Anytime you want to stand up for your state or if you have something to say. But let me just tell you about New Orleans, man, before we get into the MMA shit. Like I said, 2 of the guys we were there with got robbed. Bourbon Street, the famous Bourbon Street. But the reality is, it's just a bunch of slobs walking around, just disgusting people, and it smells like piss and puke everywhere. The smell never goes away. Ever. The fucking cab drivers, every single cab I got in, I took a total of maybe 10 cabs. Every single one of them. Texting while driving, on the phone while driving, adjusting their GPS while driving, barely looking at the damn road. I almost fought 2 of them. I just straight up say, man, dude, man, this is my life here. Pay attention to the fucking road. I didn't say it exactly like that. Well, actually, with one of them, I eventually did. It was horse shit, people. I went to this fucking steakhouse, expensive steakhouse, $50 for a damn strip of meat. And then, I start off with the shrimp cocktail. I order it, and the shrimp is dry. It's not even good. I ordered the baked oysters. They tasted like slimy grits, people. It's like ordering a bad UFC pay-per-view where it's all just a bunch of decisions. Anyway, I'll get off the topic of New Orleans, but it was disgusting, man. People were touching me and brushing up against me at Harris Casino, and especially on the fucking plane, man. I can't do planes anymore. This guy, this fancy boy, hit on me. He was like, I'm just sitting there, playing a little poker, little stud. This guy walks up to me. He's like, we start a conversation. I think he's all right. I'm not getting that. Well, nothing against being queer, but I'm not getting that queer vibe from him. Then all of a sudden he's like, we get a little chit chat. He's like, "What's your name?" I'm like, Ramses, whatever. And then he's just like, "Yeah, man, I understand you have a weird name like Ramses. That must have been tough growing up. Just like it was tough for me growing up gay." Like, that was his fucking intro line. That was how he revealed himself and came out of the closet at this casino next to a person who was playing poker. I blew through at least $5,000 on this trip, man. It was ridiculous. And just to keep it UFC related, sorry guys, hopefully you're still bearing with me. The last time the UFC was in New Orleans, Louisiana, anybody know? Ross, our trivia champion, do you know off the top of your head?
2010.
It was not 2010.
They were there
2011.
They were there for the Shields Ellenberger card.
You are correct. It was Jake Shields versus Jake Ellenberger. Shields fighting tomorrow against Damian Maia.
Don G was on the card too.
You guys thought I was just meandering, just nonsense, but I brought it around. Last time the UFC was in New Orleans, Louisiana, was for the UFC event, Jake Shields versus Jake Ellenberger. That was the fight where Jake Shields was forced to fight. He was forced to they pushed him in the cage like an hour after his father had died. An hour. Maybe even 45 minutes. And he got knocked the fuck out by Jake Ellenberger.
Wasn't it like
it was
2 weeks or so?
It might have been 2 hours, you're right. But yeah, and then that's it, man. He got knocked out 53 seconds into the first round. And now, 2 years later, he's supposed to be the headliner on this card tomorrow against Damian Maia, a guy who had one of the most disappointing title fights in UFC history against Anderson Silva. I have not forgotten about that. It's one of the first UFC fights. When I started getting into the UFC, that was one of the first fights that I actually Like watched like with invested interest, not mild curiosity. Anyway, we should get into it, man. Let's just briefly discuss it. Jake Shields versus Damian Maia going down tomorrow. Ross or Alan? What the fuck, man? Who do you got? Everyone's saying it's a close fight, but really, man, I just brought it up. Let's not forget that Jake Shields was knocked out, admitted into a fight with Jake Ellenberger. And honestly, I can't even tell them apart. But what do you think? What is the word on the street about the main event fight tomorrow? I'll skip right to it. Ross?
It's a weird fight. You got two very good grapplers. Jake Shields, he's got his American Jiu-Jitsu. He's come up with this great system, and it's effective, but in the UFC it hasn't really been all that effective. He was able to implement it really well against Ed Herman, his lone fight in the middleweight division in the UFC. That was his best performance, and he got the W, but it was overturned to a no contest. We still don't know what he tested positive for, but I don't know why he went back down to 170. He's looked bad at 170. He has not had a good performance at 170 in the UFC. The Campman fight, I thought he lost that fight. The GSP fight is honestly arguably his best performance at 170 because of how well he did against GSP, if you can even call it that. He was able to poke him in the eye, if that means anything. And actually, shout out to Jack Slack, who just put out an article about eye pokes and how they're the oldest trick in the book and how they are used intentionally. So everyone go check that out on Bleacher Report because it was a very good read. But
my God, this Jew. That's why I'm saying he's one of the smartest Jews in the business, the best in the business. Bringing up the eye pokes. I don't make run sheets. I make just jotted, confused notes for myself. And guess what? That was the next topic, eye pokes. But before we get into that, Alan, Jake Shields versus Damian Maia, I wanted to get your opinion real quick. What's the word on the street?
I never finished my point.
Oh, well, shit.
You interrupted while I was making
by all means.
Yeah, I was still talking. I was just all I mentioned so far was Jake Shields, and like I said, he hasn't looked good. Damian Maia, on the other hand, since dropping to welterweight, has looked unbelievable. His last performance against John Fitch was, sure, it was boring as hell, but he dominated Fitch from bell to bell. He Fitched, and that kind of grappling ability is insane, and that's what could very well lead him to the title, or at least a title shot. Obviously, the welterweight division's full of killers and great strikers, which would not be great for Damian Maia because his striking's not on par with guys like Robbie Lawler or Rory McDonald or even GSP striking or Johnny Hendricks. But anyway, back to the fight in general. This fight, I see it going 5 rounds. It's going to be boring. I don't see really how Jake Shields can win this fight. I think Damian Maia is better in every aspect other than maybe the awkward striking, because Jake Shields does have awkward striking, and Damian Maia even admitted himself that he thinks Jake Shields has better striking only because it's awkward. But I don't see how Jake Shields would be able to out-grapple him. I think Damian Maia has slightly better grappling. I think Damian Maia wins this fight. It goes 5 rounds, and we all hate ourselves for watching it.
That might be the most accurate prediction I've heard. Not that I have knowledge of the future, people. I'm not admitting to that just yet. Alan, what do you think? Damian Maia, Jake Shields. What the fuck's going to happen?
I will agree with Ross on one point, and that is that nobody's getting knocked out in this match, because ain't either one of these guys ever going to knock anybody out in the UFC as long as they're competing at that level. Neither one of them have knockout power, and neither one of them have that crisp enough striking to do that. As how I see the fight turning out, the only thing that, I'm curious is how well Jake Shields does against Damian Maia as far as, like, standing up and trying to complete a takedown, because we all know Damian Maia has, like, really good trips and, like, really good clinch work to take it to the ground. And Jake Shields is, I think, a little bit stronger and used to fighting bigger guys. And I'm kind of curious as to how Jake Shields does fighting Maya, as far as him being probably the stronger of the two guys. Jake's, fought guys that fight at light heavyweight, and Damian Maya hadn't really fought a big guy since he fought Chael Sonnen, and look what he did with Chael at 185. So, I think it's going to be a boring snoozer, but I think somebody could get finished. I think somebody could get tapped out or choked out. It's just with both of them having the explosive type of jiu-jitsu that they have, somebody falls in a bad position or something, or somebody, gets a back, I think somebody's going to sleep. So I think it's going to get finished maybe in the third or fourth round. Maybe Jake Shields is able to use a stand-up to set that up, and then, complete it with a takedown and finish out the match. But I'm going to go with Jake Shields. I don't think Damian Maya, he's looked good. His fight against, Dong Young Kim, that was an injury TKO. So let's be honest, he's only got 2 straight wins at welterweight. They may have been good, but, I'm not on board the hype train yet. So we'll have to wait and figure it out.
No, well, in my opinion, Damian Maya is going to choke this guy out at some point. That's just how I see it playing out. But, I don't have too much invested in the main event, people. But we'll get to the actual real main event, Mike Pierce versus Paul Harris, here in a second. But first, Ross did bring up the eye pokes, and I did want to address a few UFC conspiracies that are going on at the moment.
And I also want to say something after you.
You know what? You should go ahead right now, man. The floor is all yours while I have a puff of smoke.
I just want to shout out to Megumi Fuji, who got eye-fucked by Jessica Aguilar past weekend at Vale Tudo Japan 3.
What the fuck happened?
It was her retirement fight. She actually beat Aguilar the first time they fought in Bellator, but got fucked on a decision. And this was to be her retirement fight. And, she was fighting Aguilar again. And she was doing really well in the first round. And Aguilar hit her with 2 eye pokes that were so severe that they had to stop the fight. And her eye swole closed. And, when your eye swells completely closed from an eye poke, you're forced to, not be able to see half the things that your, opponent's throwing at you. And, they eventually had to stop the fight before the third round because of how bad the eye pokes had swole her eye closed.
But they gave her the loss?
Yep.
That's the thing, man.
Yeah, it was terrible. Her eye was completely swollen closed. It was like one of the worst. I mean, besides Alan Belcher's eye, getting cut open, it was probably one of the worst eye pokes I've ever seen. And they both looked intentional, man. She's a dirty Brazilian, I just don't trust her, and
yeah,
I'm
man.
fucking pissed off.
It's also my belief as well that there's really no such thing as an accidental eye poke. There's a freak eye poke, but I'd say accidental doesn't happen. Everybody knows what they're doing. It is one of the oldest tricks in the book. If you're ever in a real life fight for your life, I gotta say, I recommend the eye poke and eye gouge. Definitely.
Yeah, look at professional wrestling.
That's right, man. Oh, yeah, man. When they're mad at each other, they'll use that little move there. And God bless them. But that does bring up, you mentioned Alan Belcher. I'm talking about some conspiracies here, people. One of them does involve eye pokes. I'm talking about the Michael Bisping conspiracy that's going on right now, people. He's training. All of a sudden, his eye gets blasted apart. You know what happened during some sort of sparring session or some sort of bullshit while he was training, right? The conspiracy, man. Some people are saying, "Oh man, it's karma," because in case you don't remember, at UFC 159, Michael Bisping fought Alan Belcher in the co-main event right before Chael Sonnen fought John Jones and dominated him and destroyed him. But Michael Bisping fought Alan Belcher right before that in the co-main event, UFC 159. And Michael Bisping actually, quote, unintentionally poked Alan Belcher in the eye, gouging his eye, and it forced a stoppage and end to the fight. They stopped the fight because of that and declared Michael Bisping the winner. He poked the dude's eye out and got his hand raised. Of course, everyone's saying, it was unintentional, it was an accident. But, you look at the tape, you tell me. I'm not here to say anything definite. But what I'm saying, the conspiracy is, here we are, a couple months later. Michael Bisping has a good fight coming up against Mark Munoz, was it? Suddenly, someone pokes the hell out of his eye, separates his retina, detaches it. Well, same shit, right? Fucks his eye up. Was it revenge? Was it planned revenge, man? Was he sparring with somebody, maybe just homies with Alan Belcher? Is this revenge? Is it karma? Is it just sheer coincidence? Ross, what do you think, man? What the fuck's going on with Michael Bisping's eye? Think it was a setup? You think he deserved what he got?
I don't know. Injuries happen in MMA, and Bisping it starts with one little small thing. If you have an eye problem and you don't take care of it and you just ignore it and keep fighting through it. I mean, the guy was going to fight with this basically detached retina with no vision in his eye. Credit to him. He's a warrior, but if you don't take care of that, you're never going to fight again. And he didn't take care of it. It just got worse and worse and worse. But I don't know. Maybe someone was out for him. Maybe someone in the Belcher camp sent someone over to take care of him, get some revenge. It's
if you remember
something to look at.
When it happened on the UFC 159 online stream, that's exactly when the voice of Satan came on. Do you guys remember that backstory that we brought up on the Word in the Street?
Yes, indeed.
It happened during that fight. That voice, that demonic voice, Jerry Ribs, shit, whatever the fuck it was. It was creepy as fuck, man. It happened during that fight. Could it have been the demons vowing revenge against Michael Bisping? Could it have been?
Do you want me to pull up the audio of that?
Pull it up, man. Pull it up, man. It's there, man. Jerry Rips, the demonic voice at UFC 159. My God.
We got it right here.
Let's do it.
Right, a little bit more, okay? And if you turn to left hand,
What the fuck, people? That was right before they called the fight. Could it have been an angry demon of sorts? Or an angel? Swearing revenge on Michael Bisping? Could it have been? We've seen a lot of things. Anyway, Alan, what do you think, man? Michael Bisping's eye. What's the deal, man? You think it's freak accident, coincidence, or karma?
Well, I can tell you one thing that it's not, and it's not the fact that Alan Belcher sent anybody from his camp to go,
How do you know that, man?
Because Alan, the talentless Belcher, is a poor-ass, broke fighter from Mississippi.
That's the word on the street.
And he could definitely not afford to pay anybody to go and sabotage Michael Bisping's training camp.
What if he sold something and used all his money, though?
I mean, there's nothing that he could sell. I mean, even if he sold his asshole, it wouldn't be enough money to, pay somebody to do that.
I think I have no way of knowing that for sure, but I don't know how much money is involved with that. But I'm just. I
think Michael Bisping did it to himself because he didn't want to get Donkey Kong ground and pounded by Mark Munoz.
You think he pulled out his own retina because he was scared of fighting Munoz? Oh, I've never heard that one, but holy shit, you heard it here first, people. Breaking news.
I think he saw the Tim Boach fight and he was like, "God damn, I don't want to get ground and pounded like that," and fucking slammed. I mean, his thighs probably started bruising just watching that fight.
Yep, the Mark Munoz ground and pound, man. It's something to be feared. Unless you're Chris Weidman. The man beat his brains in. It was disgusting.
He beat his brains out. Literally.
They were literally His brains were literally spewing out of his skull.
Puking. He was puking up his own brains, man.
That's why Mark Munoz went into a depression, because he lost half his fucking brain mass.
That's
right,
the
he
real
gained like
reason
100
why they
pounds.
put Josh Rosenthal in jail. It's not because of the weed thing. It's because he's responsible for that.
Yep, Mark Munoz was almost a vegetable, man. He's almost cucumber status.
Well, he was a vegetable. That's why he gained all that weight. Why he was in the hospital being fed through a tube.
That's true, man. You heard it here first. Word on the street. Next conspiracy, though. We don't know what's going on with Michael Bisping's eye. I hope he's all right, though. I love the guy. He's a personal friend of mine. Hope you're doing well, Mike. Say hi to the kids. Next conspiracy I wanted to talk about. Another injury. Kat Zingano claiming she blew out her other knee. All right, now let's just think about this practically, people. You just had knee surgery. You're recovering. You know, you're not very physically active. You're not supposed to be anyway. But she somehow blows her other knee. I'm not buying this shit. It reeks. It reeks of a cover-up, people. Blowing out a knee while you're coming off of one other fucking knee surgery. No, this is bullshit. Maybe the knee's been bothering her the whole time, and she's just now collecting on that UFC insurance money. You know, just getting it all fixed while she still can. I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you guys buy this? She's fucking wearing a brace, and she somehow is doing something that causes her to blow out her other fucking knee. Ross, what's going on here, man?
Well, when you tear your ACL like that, if she did indeed tear her ACL, and you have, at least we know she had a surgery done. We know she basically had one leg for a while.
We've seen pictures, but we don't know for a fact. Let's just be 100% skeptical going into this.
Okay, we assume. So if in the scenario, if indeed she did have ACL surgery, which at this point I do believe now, you overcompensate. So the other leg, I'm not sure which leg, I can't think off the top of my head which leg she had surgery on, but because she only had one leg, she was overcompensating for the injured leg with her other leg. So her knee on the other one just was taking double the wear and tear. And because of that, she ended up with a meniscus problem, which is very common with people who have ACL injuries and basically are left without a leg for a while. So it's not really anything out of the ordinary, but yeah, it definitely sucks. That's for sure, because it sets her training schedule back a little bit. It sets her recovery back a little bit, but we'll see her soon.
Look, guys, this is why I'm bringing it up. Because of the fact that I have a fucked up knee. My right knee. It's pretty much gone. I mean, it's never been actually it's never had that singular event where it's torn, or I'm oh, I'm fucking broken, screaming in pain. It's slowly gone on me. Most of the time I gotta get around using a cane. Knee brace often. That's why I'm doubting this fucking story. What the fuck was she doing to where you're gonna tear your other knee apart? I don't fucking buy it. Alan, you ever been fucked up? I know your hand was jacked up or something. I don't know what the hell you were doing. What do you think about this? Both knees busted, coming off of a surgery. What? Am I just going crazy here? What's up?
I think it's a cover up. I think she got I think she got the preggers from Dana, and they're just covering this shit up, trying to hide it from her husband. She looked like she was getting a little baby bump whenever I saw her in Boston. She was even hitting on me, telling me that my chest looked all big and swollen, asking me if I trained and where I trained at. So I think she's been hanging out with Dana.
Did you get some pictures, man? What's the deal?
Yeah, I got a picture.
Yeah, we'll tweet that out. Word on the street. I'll retweet that. Shit. Well, maybe she's a trickster. I don't know, man. Maybe she did get knocked up. Maybe they kneecapped her and were like, you're going to get rid of this baby, and they kneecapped her. It's happened before, people. We've seen it at the Olympic sport level. It happens all the time, man. At the Thug Jitsu gym I frequent. people fucking each other up before a fight, before a sparring session even. It's that petty. It's ridiculous, people. Ridiculous. Almost as ridiculous as this next conspiracy that I want to bring up. The Clay Guida conspiracy. Simply put, why hasn't he been cut from the UFC? Why hasn't Clay Guida been fired? What other reason could there be than some sort of conspiratorial reasons? The man has not won an impressive fight in almost 10 years. His hair, the mustache, his name. Have you ever heard him talk? He looks like a Cro-Magnon man. Ross, why is Clay Guida still in the UFC? Why hasn't he been cut? I'm calling conspiracy at this point. What do you think?
Well, he does everything the UFC asks him. He fights whoever the UFC offers him. He's never turned down a fight. So in that sense, I guess he is kind of a company guy. And losing to Chad Mendes, although recently Clay Guida hasn't been the most exciting fighter in the world, losing to Chad Mendes is no thing to hang your head on. Chad Mendes is just an absolute killer who's destroying everyone now. And not only that, like it or not, Clay Guida's got a W over the current lightweight champion. So that's why he hasn't been cut.
Alan, man, I'm done with Clay Guida, but how about you? Why is he still in the UFC?
I have no fucking idea. He lost to Hatsuhioki. I guess that...
Who?
Hatsuhioki.
Who?
Hatsuhioki.
Who? I don't even know who the fuck that is.
That's the guy who beat Clay Guida last before Chad
Well, he
Mendes.
didn't get cut, huh? But he didn't get cut.
Well, he didn't get the decision because CJ Ross fucked him.
That's true. But why is Guida still around, man?
Because he's sucking somebody's dick.
They claim he's a crowd favorite, but when was the last time you met a Clay Guida fan? Anybody?
I don't know. Maybe some crazy ass person in Chicago still liked him. I don't know.
When was the first time you saw somebody walking around in a Clay Guida shirt?
Nobody. Hey,
you
know what? It's got to be that it's like one of Dana White's like little cousins or nephews that's like in love with Clay Guida, and it's just like a favor to him that Dana keeps him around.
Breaking news.
He's got to be somebody's cousin that's inside the corporate structure because there's no other reason to keep this fool around. He's boring. He's boring. I mean, you're gonna cut somebody like fucking Yushin Okami or John Fitch. They're more exciting than fucking Clay Guida. I mean, really. They're more exciting fighters than Clay Guida, and you know they fucking cut those two guys. So Clay Guida ain't fucking beating any contenders anytime soon. He's not a gatekeeper. He's not even gatekeeper status. He's bum status.
Bum status, people. You heard it first. Word on the street. Clay Guida, man, we're done with you, man. And breaking news from Alan is an officer of the law. That makes him official. That makes everything he's saying legit. He's speculating that Clay Guida might be of a blood relation to Dana or the Fertitta brothers or Zuffa or someone in the UFC. You heard it first, people. It's a word on the street.
It would make sense. Guida, Fertitta, you got the Italian connection there.
Yep. Somebody married somebody. You know how this works, man, with these Italians. Anyway, people. Last conspiracy I want to get to. Thiago Silva fighting tomorrow. Comes in. Oh, he's fighting. Matt Hamill, is it?
Yeah, he's fighting Matt Hamill.
That's right. He's fighting.
I'm the Hammer.
Thiago Silva is fighting Matt the Hammer Hamill tomorrow on the UFC card. Man, if you haven't heard me rage about that fucking Hammer movie that they made about his life, that'll be an entirely new podcast. But I don't know who to take, but we're talking about who gives a shit who wins, actually. Who cares? Nobody does. But we're talking about the Thiago Silva conspiracy here. What the fuck is going on with him? Comes in today. He misses weight. by 2 pounds. This guy's a mess, all right? He's a good fighter, but he's a fucking mess. He's the one, when they were drug testing him, piss testing him, he turned in horse piss. And then later, he got screwed for testing positive for smoking the weed, you know? Instead of fucking rolling in the gym, he was rolling doobies. He got busted, he came back, they're giving him chance after chance. Why? Also, well, let's talk about it. Ross, what do you think is going to happen in this fight tomorrow? Why is Thiago Silva so fucked up and still gets chance after chance? What is this? I mean, he's not even been a title contender. What's your opinion on Thiago Silva is my question.
Thiago Silva he still is a scary-looking dude, and he was a scary dude in the cage. And he still has some skill, but he's not what he once was. And he has just not had a quality performance since he knocked out Keith Jardine, and we all know how Keith Jardine really is. So it's a shame because he's talented. He just doesn't use his talents at all. In his last fight, he finally got a win. He knocked Fei Zhao out, but for 2 minutes he was getting beat until Fei Zhao gassed completely, and then he was able to knock Fei Zhao out. So to me, that wasn't impressive. Before that, he fought Nedkov, who's like a middleweight. He beat him up for 2 rounds and then gassed, and then he was able to get the win over Nedkov because Nedkov gassed. And then he lost before that to Gustafsson, who beat the shit out of him. He lost to Rashad. Brandon Vera fight doesn't even count because he was on horse steroids. So he hasn't been impressive as of late. On the contrary, Matt Hamill, he's very inactive. His last fight was over a year ago now, and that was his first fight out of retirement, so he hadn't fought for a year before that, which was the loss to Gustafsson before that. But Matt Hamill, I think, is a better fighter, and Matt Hamill's a really good wrestler, and he puts together his game pretty well. But I think Matt Hamill will win this fight. I'm not as confident in picking Matt Hamill as I was originally, because Matt Hamill and layoff, that whole thing. But I think, especially after today, seeing Thiago Silva miss weight the way he did, I think Matt Hamill will win this fight. I think he'll take him down, and then I don't really see how the UFC keeps Thiago Silva around. I mean, he's got 1 win in a billion years, and although it was a knockout, he got beat up for 2 of those minutes. He's failed multiple drug tests. He's missed weight now. He's just not. He's not a professional, and if you're not a professional, you shouldn't be in the UFC. So Matt Hamill's gonna beat him, and then they're gonna cut him.
Well, let me tell you something, Ross. Matt Hamill beat John Jones, and supposedly John Jones is the pound-for-pound #1 best fighter on the planet, if you ignore Anderson Silva. So technically that means that Matt Hamill is better than John Jones. So in my mind, and this is the word on the street, Matt the Hammer Hamill is the #1 pound-for-pound fighter on the planet Earth right now at this moment. This fight's a big deal. I tried to reach out to, I've asked Matt Hamill to come on the podcast and do a phone call interview numerous times, and he's said no to every single request. Alan, what do you think is going to happen in this fight? Matt Hamill versus Thiago Silva. What's your opinion on Thiago Silva? I mean, everybody, I'm talking to you people, and nobody wants to talk about the horse piss. Nobody wants to talk about him blazing to the gills. But what's your opinion, man? Thiago Silva, and then on the fight, who's going to win?
I don't think there's any question as to who's going to win this fight. Matt the Hammer is going to win because he's a better fighter. He's a better wrestler. He's a smarter human being. Let's be honest. If Thiago Silva wasn't fighting, he would be fucking carrying people on his back or running donkey buses in Brazil somewhere. The guy is a fucking retard. I mean, he's been given every opportunity to succeed, and time after time after time, he fucking fucks it fucking up. Sorry to use the F word so many times, but I mean, let's be honest.
You can curse. This is the word on the street.
Street
talk.
In his last 6 outings, he's got 1 win, a whole bunch of no contests, and fucking failed drug tests and losses. You know, it's pathetic. I don't know why he's still around. I guess because he's a bumzillion. You know, they keep giving him chance after chance. You know, I have no clue. He doesn't want to be here. He just wants to go to some small agency or something and go, fight for some fucking tiny ass corporation that's going to pay him big money just to show up and knock out bums. They need to get him the fuck out of here. And I think Matt the Hammer Hamill, the guy who made me cry when I watched his movie, it brought tears to my eyes.
That movie was a steaming pile of piss. Not even shit.
That's a
It had entire scenes that were 15 minutes long that consisted of him and his girlfriend doing sign language subtitled. You understand? Like, this movie, and it didn't even have any sort of UFC mention except for the end of the title card. He moved on to be in the UFC. No UFC fights in this goddamn movie. No real fights in this fucking movie.
What the fuck, dog?
Exactly. It was...
What the fuck, dog?
It was a tragedy, alright? It was worse than what happened on 9/11. Anyway, I don't know. I think Thiago Silva's still going to whoop his ass, but several people said Hamill. We'll find out tomorrow. Like I said, this is a fight that nobody really gives a shit about. After it's over, you'll never fucking talk about this fight again. Ever. Fuck. Both of them are probably going to retire. But there is one fight that matters, and we will close the show talking about this fucking fight, people. This is Mike Pierce's last, well, in my opinion, it's one of his last chances. Well, not his last. It's a new, big chance that he has right in front of him to once again prove himself to people he's already proved himself to. He has to get a finish. Not only does he have to get a win, he's got to get a fucking finish against Rousimar Palhares tomorrow. Brazilian guy, leg lock specialist. Deadly. Is he really? Mike Pierce is a goddamn tank. Chael Sonnen himself said Mike Pierce was a lump of coal that had been forged into a diamond, and I agree. Shit's about to get fucked up in the UFC tomorrow. Mike Pierce, I predict it'll be fight of the night. It'll definitely be an of the night something. Something fucked up is going to happen. This is going to be my go-to fight, my best fight to watch and bet on, people. Don't sleep on Mikey Pierce. It's going down, people. Ross, Mike Pierce. Straight up from the West Coast. He's worked with Coach Jamie, the living legend, Huey himself. What do you think about this fight, man? It's the only one I'm excited for. I don't even give a shit about Maya Shields, Matt Hammer. I don't give a damn. What do you think about Pierce versus Palhares?
Matt Hammer.
Well, that was not me, first of all. Second of all, this fight... Actually, before I even say anything, Rousimar Palhares looked horrible today at the weigh-ins. The guy was so relieved that he made weight. He was like covering his eyes.
What happened?
He got on the scale and he was like all nervous. He was like covering his face and like doing like he looked like he was so stressed. And then they finally said 171 and he had this like look of relief on his face. And he looked like he had a terrible weight cut. And to me, that's the driving factor as to why Mike Pierce will definitely win this fight tomorrow. I think Mike Pierce, I agree with you. I think Mike Pierce will get a bonus tomorrow. It's not going to be fight of the night, though. It's going to be knockout of the night. Husamar, he can catch him with a leg lock, but it's not going to happen. It's not. Mike Pierce is smart. He's obviously trained for that. He's going to stop the leg lock, and he's going to TKO, put him out cold. It doesn't matter. He's going to finish him with strikes. Hopefully, Pierce doesn't get caught with a leg lock. Hopefully, Paul Harris does not pull that off in the very small chance that he does pull it off. Hopefully, he doesn't, because it would put Mike Pierce on the shelf for a very long time, and I don't want to see that. But I don't see the leg lock coming. I see Mike Pierce stopping a leg lock, or not even getting to that point, and he's going to put Toquinho's, whatever his nickname is, lights out cold. Mike Pierce by knockout, first or second round, and then he gets knocked out of the night.
You're goddamn right. That's the word on the street. It's hard to pull off a leg lock when you've been beaten unconscious. Alan, man, this is my favorite fight that I'm looking forward to. Do you agree or disagree, and how do you see this fight going? Pierce versus Husamar. Paul Harris, Toquinho.
Ladies and gentlemen, I've been on Twitter talking with Mike's wife, or, partner, whatever you want to call her, Crystal, all week. I'm excited and pumped for this fight.
She's awesome. Shout out to Crystal.
Let's be honest. Mikey Pierce, he's an Oregonian, correct?
That's right, man.
And what the fuck do they have in Oregon? Trees. And what the fuck does Little Toquinho stand for? Little stump. Mikey Pierce is used to chopping down bigger trees than a little stump. And tomorrow, he's going to fucking chop down Little Toquinho, or however the fuck you say his nickname. He's going to chop him down into a million fucking pieces with this fist. He's going to destroy him. Finally get him out of the UFC. Stop wasting fucking roster space so we can hire some of those bumzillions or some more fucking Bellator prospects or whatever it is. But Mikey Pierce, he's going to fucking come to do battle. He's pissed off because they fucked with his flights and he had some trouble getting to Brazil. So I see him taking out his anger on Little Toquinho and fucking finishing this fight. I'm with you guys. Team Darkside till we die.
Hell yeah, man. Mike Pierce is going to be the new axe murderer, so to speak. Chopping that stumpy motherfucking Paul Harris down. Usually, I try to stay away from fighter bashing. But, he ain't going to hear it. He don't understand this language. He's not listening to this podcast, Paul Harris. From what I hear from Ross, he's looking like goddamn Dawn of the Dead right now. Same goes for Matt Hamill. He'll never listen to this podcast. Anyway, people, I want to thank you for tuning in to the Word on the Street podcast, and I just want to thank just a few people. Princess Lionheart, Haley 420, Ken Shamrock, Uriah Faber, Nam Fan, King Ying, my girlfriend, my sweet love, the one, my destiny. You know who she is, people. My endless love. That's right, Alexis. You hear me, girl? And also, Dana White, thank you for sending the bottle of champagne my way. Appreciate it, man. I'll hit you back. You know I will. Much love. Kelly Clarkson. And Barack Obama. Shout out, man. Don't worry. Everything's going to be all right. Rockabye. And Jake from the MMA podcast. He could not make it tonight. We did try to reach him. It's not like him to disappear like this, not show up. So, I hate to be a downer right here at the end of the podcast, but he is more than likely dead.
Cocksucker.
So, Jake, man, much love to you too, man. I'll pour a little bit of the bubbly that Dana sent me out in your name. God bless Jake from the MMA podcast. Follow at the MMA podcast on Twitter. Producing the show, saving the day. The best Jew in the biz tonight was Ross Finkelstein. Ross also has his own podcast, The Final Round, but he'll tell you all about it and himself right now. What's up, Ross?
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. I do have my own podcast. It is called The Final Round, and you know when you can catch it? You can catch it tomorrow, technically today at this point, 12 Eastern Time, right after The Ultimate Fighter, or I guess an hour after The Ultimate Fighter. We're going to break down Tough. We're going to break down this card tomorrow. We're going to do all sorts of Jew shit. It's going to be so much fun. Tune in. Find me on Twitter, at Ross Finkelstein, E before the L. All the information will be there. I don't have anything else to say. Woohoo.
That's right, people. All sorts of Jew shit, man. You don't even have to be a Jew. Everybody's welcome. It ain't true what they say. Alan, Officer Alan, where can people find you, hit you up? What do you got to say? Anything you want to get off of your chest, man? Any confessions? Now's the time.
I just want to tell Jessica Aguilar, you're a bitch for ending Megumi Fuji's career on that type of note. It was a bitch move to poke her in the eye all those times that you did. Only a Brazilian would stoop so low as to do that. Only a Brazilian. Let's get facts straight.
I'll tweet out links to this.
Ladies and gentlemen, support your women's MMA. It's beautiful. There's nothing like watching a pair of boobies duking it out in the middle of the octagon. I mean, it's a change of pace, it's entertaining, and it's beautiful. You can catch me on Twitter, Westland Eagle AH Alpha Hotel, also on Instagram. All I do is retweet shit about UFC, MMA, some good music, and maybe some political shit every once in a while, but I try to stay away from it. That's it. Nothing else.
He's a good man. Follow him, follow Ross, follow Jake from the MMA podcast. Everybody else I'm forgetting about. This is the Word on the Street podcast coming to you October 9th, the year 2000 in Chael. We'll see you next week, next Tuesday, and tune into the final round tomorrow. After the fights, I'll be there. We'll all break down this shit, get ridiculous up in here. Thank you all for tuning in. Follow me on Twitter, The Aunt Jimmy Show. See you all. Smoke weed every day. Good night.
Think I'm playing with you, but this piss gon' feature. I was in the hood, #1.